If you've seen my other Neville Goddard videos, and this is the one that really breaks them open in my mind, it's probably the most important one. I'm not talking about techniques in this video, I'm talking about a prerequisite that he used but never really taught, and why without it nothing that you do within his method actually works. So it's pretty important. And if you're new here and Neville Goddard's teachings are exciting, spiritual teachings often are in principle, but actually a little bit disappointing in practice, then this is going to explain why. Now, Neville taught a process, and it was pretty simple to understand. And amongst all of his other teachings, he had one standout kind of process that he taught, which is you feel it as if it's already real, you let your imagination embody it, and if you do that enough, you then go and live the experience and it manifests. And if you've tried that, you already know the problem, which is it doesn't really work. 99% of the time, it doesn't work. You do the scenes, you feel the feelings, your life looks much better for a little bit internally. You feel, oh, this could really work. And then it doesn't. And most people assume one of two things. And it's important to realize this. Either they think I did it wrong, or maybe this stuff isn't as real as I think it is, like the law of attraction. And both of them are the wrong question at that point. The real question is, what did Neville's process completely depend on that he never taught? So maybe the issue's with the process, and I'm going to suggest that it is, and one area in particular, because there's a hidden key. And in a few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how to start building that hidden key for yourself, and also why once you have it, you will no longer be dependent on Neville's or anybody else's techniques at all. So my name's David Marshall, and on this channel, we're not going to worship teachings. We test and we challenge them, which some people are uncomfortable with, I know. But if you're interested in what actually works, you've got to challenge it, press into it and explore it. And if you're willing to challenge even the ideas that you love, then you're in exactly the right place, and subscribe for more in 2026. We're going to look at why Neville's method actually is unreliable. So let's start with your real experience, not just the theory. It has to be practical. Think about a time when you used Neville's method for something that you really cared about, that you wanted to change. You choose your scene. You made it short, straight to the point. You get your imagination involved. You imagined it before sleep. You felt the satisfaction and the relief of, okay, I'm in a process here. It feels really good, I know. And then you wake up the next day or the day after or the day after. You look at your email, you look at your messages, you look at your bank balance, you look at your body or your partner or whatever it would be to see if anything's changed. And that's where it's actually failed. The watching to see if it worked is your first clue that the method is incomplete. Because in that moment, you're not living from this is done. You're living from I've done a Neville technique. Let's see if reality plays along. Totally understandable. You might even feel a bit elevated, a bit hopeful. You might tell yourself, no, I'm in the end and I'm living in the end, and you're reconfirming that. But your system is actually waiting for proof. And this is where people get stuck for years. And I'm going to resolve that for you, because proof comes in many ways. They keep trying to fix the scene internally, fix the timing, fix the emotions, when the real problem is that their underlying expectation of change hasn't actually moved. And that's the most important thing. So the first thing I want you to notice is this: you can't fake expectation of complete success. Simply impossible if you're honest with yourself. You either expect something or you don't. Your body knows, more importantly, your nervous system knows, your mind knows, your energy knows, your behavior the next day, having done some kind of practice, always tells the truth. And the key with being a conscious creator and using these types of methods is that you must be honest with yourself. And now in a minute, I'm going to walk you through a simple internal test. You can feel the difference between hope and expectation in your own system. But there's a couple of things we need to do first. We need to be very clear about what the hidden prerequisite for success actually is. And that is what we need to understand. The hidden key to success is not more vivid imagination or more meditating. It's not stronger emotions. It's not better scenes. It's not repeating rituals or processes more times. These are refinements, if you like, of a method, but they don't work. They're not the prerequisite. They're not essential for success. The essential part is that you and your system that manifests this, must 100% expect your inner choices to become your outer experience. That's the only key that matters. It's the key to success and also obviously failure. And most people just don't have any real expectation of that's going to work. A lot of people do the lottery, but they don't believe they're going to win. Your level of expectation needs to be not just some kind of nice idea, not just as, wouldn't it be lovely if, but as the most obvious thing in the world. And this is really, really important for all of us to understand. Because reality obeys expectation. It's the bit that moves it from internal to manifest. Expectation is how any chosen internal reality manifests outward. And when Neville used his method, he wasn't trying to make himself believe. Remember, he already believed from his experiences. He started from an already established conviction that consciousness is the only cause. He wasn't new to this when he made this up. He assumed before the scene that his inner act was the act that mattered, that the scene was an expression of expectation, but it's not. Most people don't start from that point, which is why they fail. They try to use an internal scene to generate expectation of success that they don't have. If I imagine this often enough, I will finally believe it. It's like going to the gym and expecting the weights to lift your arms for you. It simply doesn't work. And once you can see that, you can realize that the technique is not where the power is. Expectation is like a muscle. It strengthens by removing competing assumptions, not by just putting in more effort. Every time you look to the outer world for confirmation, you relax that muscle back into some kind of habit that things aren't going to working. The technique gives expectation something to work with, but it doesn't build expectation. That's essential to understand. And an uncomfortable bit that some people, like I say, are uncomfortable with is that these teachings skip it entirely because it's harder to market to people. If you were to say, just imagine this scene every night, it's simple and you'll get what you want, or develop the level of inner authority where your choices stabilize reality, none of that is a weekend workshop. It's a process of self-becoming that takes lifetimes. And not that that's the level I think that Neville was playing at. I truly believe that he was playing at a much deeper level. But his idea that if people keep doing this process, they're going to manifest what they want simply isn't enough. The process isn't enough to build expectation. Now, in a moment, I'm going to give you 3 concrete signs that your expectation muscle is a little bit weak. 3 ways to start strengthening it also, most importantly. And before that, I want to be honest about something else that people struggle with in the spiritual world. And this is the difference between kind of spiritual tourism and conscious creation. And in society, and in the New Age in particular, to be honest, we've kind of turned spirituality into something that you're not allowed to question. People get offended if you challenge it. You're allowed to question yourself, of course. You're allowed to say, oh, it's my inner blocks, or it's your limiting beliefs, or it's your resistance. But you're not really encouraged to question the method that's being taught. And I want you to question the method that's being taught. If it doesn't work, we're told things like we're out of resonance, or we didn't raise our vibration enough. I love that one. Or you didn't surrender enough, or your subconscious wasn't aligned. These are just excuses. Because if you notice, the teaching always remains intact. The problem is always you or me. And that dynamic has to change. It keeps us small. It keeps us questioning ourselves, not methods. And for me, that is not spiritual development. That's kind of spiritual tourism. You visit method, so something hasn't worked. Life's not how you want it to be. You visit a new method. You have some kind of internal lift up, if you like, experiences. You collect some more concepts and you buy the next thing. But what you don't do is step into your own authority and ask very seriously, actually, what actually creates these events? Not what sounds the most spiritual or what did my favorite teacher say, but what actually precedes this event that's happening in my life. That's the only important question that you need to consider. Now, Neville, of course, did do something valuable, as lots of spiritual teachers do. He treated consciousness as the cause, and that's his process. But over time, this method's turned into another ritual that doesn't work. And we always protect the process. We avoid examining the prerequisite underneath. It's always about method and also mostly about us. And so if we examine it, let's look at how you can tell whether you're operating from expectation or from spiritual theatre in a way. We need to think about how to test your own levels of expectation, because when your expectation is powerful, you don't need that many techniques, to be honest. So I want you to bring something to mind, something you've been trying to manifest. You might do this after this video as well. Something that you used a Neville technique on, for example, like money or relationships or kind of changing your body. Doesn't really matter at all. So just take a moment. Now just imagine this. Imagine that it's completely and absolutely guaranteed success, whatever you're thinking about. No technique. There's no more work required. There's nothing. It's scheduled to arrive. You don't know when intellectually, because we bring these events about in our lives when they are best for us. But if it were true that this is arriving, two things would shift. First, your body, I would imagine. Notice what happens in your chest or your stomach or your breathing as you play around with that idea. Probably relaxes. Certainly doesn't tighten, I wouldn't think. Do you feel relief or do you feel fear? Do you feel a level of excitement and expectation? Grounded. It's happened. You don't need to do anything else. You've done it. Secondly, think about your behavior. If it were guaranteed, what would you stop doing? What would you stop checking? What conversations would you stop having? Where would your attention naturally go to instead? And here's the key point, which is that expectation is when those answers are already there. Already, how would you live before the event arrives? That's how you build expectation. Expectation, in a way, isn't about excitement of the future. It's the absence of fear or surprise that it's going to arrive. And if when you played with the idea of it's guaranteed, your system flinched or argue or started looking for proof, then you are working from hope. You're not working from expectation. And of course, I would say to you, this isn't a moral failure in any way, shape or form. You've done nothing wrong. It simply means that the prerequisite for success, a deep belief and expectation of success, isn't simply in place yet. You don't believe enough that this is going to work. You don't understand you create your own reality. And Neville's method won't fix that for you. It was never designed to. So the next part is, how do you actually build this level of expectation? How do you build this muscle? And so we're going to do it in 3 practical ways so that you can begin to do this today. Now, there are many ways, of course, to approach this, but I want to give you 3 that are simple enough that you can start today, but deep enough that they also give you a sense of change and also a possible shift in your life. The first one I think is essential, which is to change how you treat real evidence. So right now, you probably treat physical events as the only real evidence. That's proof, if you like. Money actually in the account or a message on the phone or whatever it is. You must recognize that feedback comes internally first. Expectation is built internally, and you need to recognize that your inner movement or feeling or sense is proof of something changing. Change is often emotional first. It means that when you genuinely shift your sense of self internally, you no longer rely on this as the total proof. See what I mean? I hope that's clear. You say, this is the cause, I am the cause, the outer will organize around this. And then for the next week, every time you dismiss some kind of inner feeling of joy or intuition or whatever, because nothing's happened out here yet, just dismiss that. Just say, no, I need to build internal feedback first. Instead, if that happens, just deliberately mark those inner movements, write them down, acknowledge them as the primary shift. This is teaching your system that consciousness really is first, which is true. That's what Neville said. Consciousness comes first. And you must recognize that the proof doesn't come out here first, it comes here first. Something else I'd suggest is that you stop using techniques to check on reality. A lot of people secretly use Neville's method, for example, as a method of checking. I'll imagine it again tonight and see how I feel tomorrow. Okay. They may feel uplifted. Maybe they feel as though it's working if they keep doing this thing, but then they feel flat again. So that's not creation. That's kind of hoping and divination, if you like. So for a time period, it could be 7 days, could be 14, whatever. Pick one outcome and retire all techniques around it. Just stop. Don't do any scenes. don't do any meditating, don't do any manifesting, not any, just one more session. Just instead do this. Just decide once, clearly, to yourself, out loud if you want to, whatever you like. You're only speaking to yourself fundamentally. This is the reality I choose. Be clear. I will now live as this is inevitable. And then watch where you're tempted to do some other technique, or watch if an internal belief comes up. Note it, explore it, but don't check it, because that temptation is saying, I don't trust myself, I don't trust reality. Every time it arises, don't shame yourself, don't blame yourself, just notice it and say, look, I've already chosen. My job now is to live from it, not to keep reordering it. You have to starve the checking habit and feed expectation. Number 3, and I love this one, is let small domains prove it to you, i.e. let small actions prove it to you, feedback. If you try and jump straight from I don't trust the world to I completely trust the world, it's impossible. You're going to get resistance. So we need to start small. Pick areas where reality feels more flexible to you, like being given a free coffee, or an exciting conversation, or a small amount of unexpected money, or a particular kind of opportunity. Don't try and jump too quick. I've been saying that to people for many years. It just creates a kind of pullback. The difference is, instead of hoping these things will show up, decide 100% that this is now normal in your field of consciousness. I am the person for whom this type of thing happens. You're creating certainty, expectation, and then stop watching for them. That's key. Just go about your life. Expectation, I like this phrase, doesn't watch the oven door. It allows the oven just get on with cooking dinner. If they don't show up in the way that you think, don't worry about it. And when they do, name it and claim it as feedback for you. That's when you can celebrate. You're trying to teach your system that this inner stance of expectation influences events. And once your system has enough evidence, expectation is natural. It's not a technique anymore. It just becomes your default. Now, in a moment, I'm going to show you exactly why, once that happens, you are no longer dependent on Neville's method at all, or anybody else's. And I think that's the point. But I just want to address one thing that people often struggle with when we try and change a method, or challenge a method, if you like. Because if you do care about Neville or other teachings that you're exploring, it can feel, and I have been there, almost sacrilegious to say, look, the method doesn't actually work. But I want to move the conversation on a bit and be a bit more honest, that if consciousness is the only cause, then no method, including Neville's or anyone else's, can be the source of power. You are the source of power. And at best, these methods are a way of pointing us back to our own authority and nature. The highest respect, I think, you can pay to any teacher is not to try and freeze their methods in time when they don't work, but to apply their core insight more radically than they did, to be braver. Now, Neville's core insight was not, here's the perfect scene construction technique. If you like, it really was something like your imagination is God, if your inner act is the creative act. And if that's true, then the goal, I think, was never to make you dependent on any particular process, his process. This is the only way. It's not. The goal was to return you to your own authority, to the point where you no longer need anybody else's scripted method at all. And that only happens when the prerequisite, the expectation of success, is built within us. And when you expect and acknowledge your inner choices and beliefs and expectations to become your outer life, you don't need anything else. So if you're struggling with that, I would say you're not disrespecting Neville by asking, how come this doesn't work for 99% of people? You're actually doing something extremely sensible. You're completing the work. You're kind of taking it on to a next level. And I think that's what we should be doing. And so the final part is we need to bring all this together. When the expectation muscle is weak, techniques feel powerful. Okay, that's really key to understand. The technique feels like it's the thing that makes reality move. When expectation is strong, where you know you have the power and ability to success, techniques become less obvious, they're optional. You might still enjoy them, of course, like a scene before sleep or a written letter from a future self. But what you know is that you're using your own power in new ways. It's not just a performance. And at that point, then, manifestation looks much less mystical. To be honest, it looks ordinary, grounded. Looks like your choice, and of course, it manifests. Your system then reorganizes around that internal power. Reality configures itself in a loving way. And so sometimes things will happen in the right order and sometimes they won't, intellectually. We need to let go of that too. But when you get the underlying experience of expectation, when that's stable, you can say things like, I know what I've chosen, I know who I am in relationship to this event or this reality, and just allow reality to catch up with that. I think that's what Neville's state was kind of pointing to. That's the hidden key in his method that we need to recognize wasn't there and we need to put it in. So here's when I'm going to leave you today, which is that it's worth sitting after this video ends because it's quite long, I think. It's 20 minutes long. But also, there's a lot in it. What if you stop trying to perfect Neville's methods or anybody's methods and start deliberately developing the one thing that his method depended on, expectation of success, and what that means, how to generate that? What if the next season of your life, your primary spiritual practice wasn't some kind of spiritual practice, just treating inner movement as real evidence, or retiring techniques, letting small movements recognize your ability to manifest something simple, grounded, normal, boring, often in a way. What you might find is that the spiritual struggles that you've had were never about worthiness maybe, or deservingness, or hidden blocks or energies or whatever. They're actually about the missing prerequisite to success, the knowledge and expectation that you create your own reality. So that's where I'll leave you. And if this landed for you, it can feel something in you is tired of spiritual tourism, ready to challenge and develop actual inner authority, then this is, I would say, the work you need to do. Watch how you work when you move through the next week. Notice when you're doing spiritual theatre. Be honest with yourself. You don't have to tell anybody else. And of course, if you want to go deeper into this expectation muscle about how consciousness creates reality in practice, then that's exactly what this channel is all about. So there, if that resonates with you, do subscribe, think about liking the video, do comment below. Any will answer. I'm always interested in your comments and in your feedback, and I will see you on the next video. Take care.